All right, this is Boxing with the Truth, and I am the Truth. Today is August 1st, 2015, and today we have with us Joe Pastore, who actually is Kermit Cintron's friend and current trainer. And this is a follow-up interview that I did about 2 weeks ago with Kermit Cintron. So we're going to talk about where Team Cintron is going and where Kermit Cintron is going. How you doing today, Joe?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. So let's get right to it. Everybody knows that did listen to the interview. We talked about where Kermit wants to go. That he's back from his 16-month layoff. Why he had a 16th-month layoff. So let's go over that real quick for the people that weren't aware of it. His last fight was with Canelo Alvarez, correct?
No, Ronald Cruz.
Oh no, you're right. My fault. Ronald Cruz. After that, then he took a layoff, right?
Yes.
And let's talk about why he took a layoff. First of all, anybody that thought Kermit Cintron was retired, he is not retired. He never was retired. He took a layoff because it was about time to get a surgery on his hand, correct?
Yeah, what a lot of people don't know is that injury occurred in his amateur career originally. He threw a right uppercut and hit a guy in the forehead on an old pair of reused amateur gloves, which is, what they did at the time. Amateur gloves were recycled over and over, show after show. And, of course, over time the padding degrades and gets separated and pushed away from the front, and got a knuckle injury on his right hand. And basically from that point on, it had been a constant obstacle for us to overcome and work around, and he was able to do so for his first 24 fights without a hitch. And at one point, he developed a vascular necrosis in the knuckle on his right hand, which is when the blood flow stops going to the bone, and the bone actually begins to die. That's where the word necrosis ties in. That means death of tissue. And he had a few surgeries. I think these last two that he had were his 7th and 8th surgery on his hand. And every time going into a training camp or going into a fight, it wasn't about getting in shape or really preparing for the fight. He's always been in shape and he's always been ready to fight. It was just working around his hand. And once again, with the Ronald Cruz fight, it was working around the hand. Certain punches that he threw, he couldn't throw effectively because the hand was damaged. And if you were to look at his last few fights over the last couple of years, the thing that you see that is absent is that huge fight-ending right hand, and that's because he protects it. And even at times when he's feeling better with it, when you are under the concern that at any point you could land a punch that could basically, explode your right hand again, you're never going to throw it the way you would if it was uninjured. And you might see the right hand come up here and there in an exchange where he might get, angry or lose, where instinct takes over and he just lets the hand go. But he wasn't able to use it as the calculated weapon that he did early in his career. So after the Cruz fight, him and I had a talk and we sat down and said, physically he's still got all the abilities, but, we can't make a run at the top fighters fighting one-handed. And, I felt that he was doing an injustice to himself by going out there and fighting like that, because I know what he's capable of. So we just made the decision to get the surgeries and take the right amount of time off and to let the hand heal completely. And that's what we did over the course of those 16 months. He had 2 hand surgeries, and he had tendon and ligament damage, and he had a bunch of excess bone that had built up in the back of his hand from calcification. I think they said when they pulled all the bone out and they actually lined the pieces up next to each other, it measured over 1.5 inches long. And, so after the surgery was and heal and not do anything that might, slow down the healing process or re-injure the hand. And that's what happened, because he should have stopped Ronald Cruz early. He hurt him with the first check hook he threw, but he couldn't throw the follow-up right hands, or, so it wound up being a distance fight. And, I was to the point and he was to the point where fighting one-handed was just, couldn't do that anymore. So that's how we got there.
Okay, so just so everybody knows, you didn't just become Kermit's trainer recently or during the 16-month layoff. You've been in Kermit's life for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. I met him before he turned professional. This is a pretty well-known story. I walked in Marshall Kaufman's gym, who was his original trainer. And as I was going into the back where the gym was, you could hear somebody hitting the pads, and I'm going to use the same quote that's probably out there in a dozen stories. It sounded like gunfire, the way it was cracking against the pads. I walked back, and it was the first time I ever laid eyes on Kermit, and I'm watching him, hit the pads with Marshall, and you could see that everything was done properly. Like, the punch mechanics were perfect, leverage, speed was there. He fought tall and long as his body frame would dictate. And I said to Marshall, after we went back to the office, I said, man, how long was that guy? How many pro fights has he had? And he said, Joe, this is his second month in the gym. I said, it's going to be your first world champion there, Marshall. And then a couple weeks later, we sat down and got together, and we said that we would get together as a team, myself, Marshall, and Kermit, and I would back him financially and make sure that he was in shape and make sure that he was strong and ready to go, and we would give everything we had into going and pursuing a world title. And for the next couple of years, all the way up to 24-0 with 22 knockouts, it worked flawlessly.
And obviously, I mean, the guy's 35-5-2 right now. So I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at. And he actually, if you ask anybody that's in boxing right now, they won't say Kermit is an opponent. They will tell you that Kermit Cintron is still a very dangerous fighter. And
well, it depends on who you ask. I mean, and I can understand an argument either way, because I've seen the best of Kermit and I've seen the worst of him. And what's unfortunate is his worst performances, people don't know the underlying reasons. That hand was so bad that literally holding an eating utensil was difficult for him. To take a butter knife and scrape butter off of a stick of butter was painful. So people don't understand the scope of that injury and how damaged that hand was. And unless you've been in a boxing gym or unless you've had an injured hand, it's hard to comprehend what it's like to have that kind of injury and then have to get in and fight somebody with it and know that at any given point you could land a punch that could maybe end your career or double you over in pain or make you want to quit, or and it's unfortunate that the time that the injury was the worst, he was fighting the better opponents of his career. So some people might write him off. I can understand why they would, but I really don't care, because I'm the guy that's behind the scenes with him. I know what he goes through. I know what he's capable of. I know what he puts into training, and I hope they do write him off. I hope all these guys at 147, 154 write Kermit off as an opponent, because it's going to make our job easier. Kermit at 100% is capable of beating anybody at 147 or 154.
Okay,
and that's a fact.
So let's
People
talk.
may laugh at me for that, but I don't care. I know because of what I've seen. So that's pretty much where I stand on that.
So let's talk about that. Is his hand 100% right now?
We've got about 100 rounds of sparring and hard sparring in, and he's throwing big right hands, hurting guys, dropping guys, and I have seen no indication whatsoever of any kind of pain, wincing, hesitation in throwing the right hand. So based off of what I've seen, I would say the hand is 100%. He says he has no problem with it. His grip strength is back up to what it was before the injury. So yeah, I mean, we heavy bag work, pad work, and he's punching a ton. So I'm comfortable and I'm happy, and he seems to be too. And the feeling, the apprehension of injuring himself, as it's faded, as he's gotten more confident in throwing the right hand, as the sparring has progressed, I'm seeing a more relaxed Kermit in the ring when he's sparring, and he's starting to look like the guy that he was on his way up when he was running through everybody, because that anxiety, that pressure, that worry doesn't seem to be there anymore. So I'm very happy with where things are at right now.
Okay, considering that he wasn't like retired or anything like that, and I mean he was still, his name is still a household name. People know who Kermit Cintron is. Is he gonna have to start though at the bottom of the ladder and climb his way to the top, or is he gonna be able to jump in maybe after 1 or 2 fights and start fighting the guys in the top 10 again?
Ideally, I would like to have a tune-up fight, that he could get in, and there's a big difference between, being in the gym sparring, which he gets plenty of, and actually, getting out in the ring under the lights, in front of the cameras, in front of the people, and fighting. I think if the right opportunity presented itself, we would go right to a bigger fight as well. Kermit's a veteran. He's been a competitor and a strong competitor in competitive sports his whole life. I don't foresee anxiety or mental pressure being a problem for him, because that's all he knows. I mean, the last 15 years of his life has been boxing at a competitive level, at a high level. So if a bigger fight comes up, we just bring in better sparring partners and prepare. But ideally, I would like to see him get in the ring and just have a tune-up fight, knock a little rust off. But given the right amount of time to prepare, if somebody steps up and we get the right amount of time to prepare, he's capable of beating anybody at 47 to 54.
So here's
I believe that 100%.
So here's my question, because right now, if he's 100% and people start finding out that his power is back, and he's kind of in a tough position, because the prospects that are coming up that thought maybe eventually they'd be able to use Kermit Cintron as just an opponent or a name to build on, if they're worried that his power's back, they're not going to call him, because they're not going to try to ruin their climb up the ladder with Kermit Cintron knocking him out. And the guys that are on the top, in the top 10, there's no reason right now. They think, why should I fight Kermit Cintron? The guy's been off for 16 months. He doesn't do anything for me to fight Kermit Cintron. So, I mean, like he mentioned in his interview, hey, I'm not an opponent, but nobody's calling my phone though either.
Right.
So,
well, I understand that, and I think what's going on right now with the boxing on free TV is going to be helpful for Kermit. I think that what Al Heyman is doing is a good plan, because he's allowing fighters to start making money. You don't have to be an undefeated superstar to make money, if you're fighting on that PBC circuit. And I think that that's great for boxing, because you see now all the promoters are rallying against Al Heyman. Well, all Al's doing is taking the money and putting a little more money into the fighters' pockets, which eventually, the promoters see that is coming out of their pockets. You put on good fights. You look at the blueprint that the UFC has used. They recycle the same fighters over and over and over and over again, but they put on a good, entertaining fight card, and people keep watching. Well, the same thing will work with boxing. If they would stop worrying about protecting that goal at the end of the record and just put on good fights and give guys a chance and give them an incentive to take risks and not have to worry, well, geez, if I lose one fight, then I'm a nobody, then I'm a has-been that never was. People will be more inclined to step up and take dangerous fights. So I blame a lot of that on the promoters. I blame it on fight fans who, the first time a guy struggles, the first time a guy has a tough outing, he's a bum. Well, unless you walked in a fighter's shoes and gone through what a fighter has done, don't call him a bum. I mean, you go through an 8-week training camp. Not only do you have to prepare for a fight, not only do you have to get in shape, be strong, be fast, be conditioned, have endurance, prepare for a specific opponent, you also have to do that while and hope that you get there without getting injured or getting sick midway through camp, or and part of your preparation for getting ready for your competition is sparring, which sparring takes a lot out of a fighter. People just, they don't comprehend what really goes on in boxing. You're taking your time away from your family. So, I think if Kermit's break comes, I think it's going to be probably through that PBC boxing, and somebody will step up. Somebody will either underestimate him, which is what I think will happen. Somebody will take a look at his name and say, "Oh, he's got a great record. He's washed up, or he's not what he used to be, or I've seen him struggle in fights," and that's what I think is going to happen. Somebody's own arrogance is going to get in their way, their own arrogance and their own, I don't know, for lack of a better term, lack of intelligence, And I think that somebody's going to look at him as an easy fight, and Kermit with his right hand being there he's one punch away at any given second from ending the fight. So I think, my job is to worry about getting him in shape and making him prepared, and that's all I'm concerned with.
So has there been any talks with Al Heyman's people or Greg Cohen's people about possibly getting him on one of these shows? Not that I know of. There's some people that I know that are in contact with Al Heyman, and have made some mention to me about trying to do something, but boxing, I've never met a good person in boxing in my life, so I kind of take anything that's said to me as a grain of salt. The only people I trust in this sport are myself and Kermit, so that's pretty much how I feel about that. Okay, now I know you've heard the interview that I did with Kermit, and he basically said that he wants Amir Khan. What do you think of that?
I think Amir Khan's a good fight for Kermit. To be honest with you, I think anybody's a good fight for Kermit. There's not many people. Ideally, if we had a tune-up fight, and there's not many people. Actually, there's nobody at 47, 54 that I would say no to. If Kermit is 100% prepared, conditioned, and trained, and the hand is good, there's nobody that I don't think that he can't beat.
There's a couple guys out there that I would just, seeing that he's coming back, I would just like to see what he could do with, and I just kind of want to hear what you got to say. I'd like to, are you familiar with the new Ray Robinson? Yeah. I think that would be an interesting fight. I don't know if Ray Robinson would be interested in that, because the guy's record's 19-2, and he's trying to move up himself. But then you got some of the older guys where I'd like to see him maybe get in the ring with like Brandon Rios, or my favorite right now would probably be Robert Guerrero. I think that would be an exciting fight.
Yeah, I mean any one of those guys. To me, any one of those guys. I honestly think anybody that chooses to fight Kermit right now will do so based on an assumption that it's going to be an easy fight, and that if they put a little pressure on him, that he'll look for a way out, or he'll submit and just try and get through the fight. That's what I think the mindset of people looking at Kermit are going to approach the fight with, and I hope they do. I really hope they do. I'm on the inside of that picture looking out at everybody else, and they're on the outside looking in. So being on the inside, I know a lot more about Kermit and what's going on than they do. So they can make whatever assumptions that they want. So if they want to take a fight with him, let's make the fight.
So what is Team Cintron's goals and Kermit Cintron's goals for the rest of 2015 and possibly 2016?
I would like two fights in 2015. Yeah, I would like a tune-up fight, just somebody get in there, get a few rounds in, knock somebody out, and then look for a bigger fight. And right after the tune-up fight, I would shoot for the stars. Any big name guy or I like, honestly, if I could have my choice, I like Keith Thurman. If I could pick anybody, I like Keith Thurman.
That would be an explosive fight. Both of those guys got power, and I believe somebody would get knocked out in that fight.
Yeah. The thing is, people are always going to look to Kermit, and they're going to think that they could stop him or get him out of there. And I'm not trying to make excuses for Kermit either. But I feel like myself, if I went into a fight knowing that I had a compromised right hand, I couldn't see myself having much belief in getting through a hard fight. The first few rounds it came and went, and I didn't get him out of there with a left hook. I would have a hard time seeing myself committing 100% to the fight, knowing that I'm going in, with only one of my weapons. So, one thing that I can say for Kermit is when he's healthy, when he has that right hand, when he's in shape like he was when him and I were first together, when he's well prepared and he's focused on fighting the type of fight that he should fight based on his physical attributes, Kermit can take it just as well as give it out. And I think that who was Thurman's last fight? We just saw it. Well, who the heck did he fight last? I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Louis Cazzello? Is that how you say his name? I think that's who. Wasn't that who it was? Louis Cazzello or Cazzalo?
Louis Cazzato, yeah. Now, Louis Cazzato is not a big puncher. And Keith Thurman went out and he tried to run over Collazo, and Collazo didn't go. And Collazo started fighting him back a little hard and hurt him with that body shot. Then we saw the mover and the boxer come out in Thurman. I look at that fight and I say, what if Kermit lands a right hand on him, or what if Kermit lands a left hook on him like that? And what if Thurman lands a big shot on Kermit and Kermit doesn't go anywhere? What happens to Thurman then? I've seen what Kermit's capable of taking and what he's capable of dishing out. And if you look back to Kermit's fight with Teddy Reed, which to me is his best performance of his career, you saw Kermit take huge shots, and you saw him drop a guy that had never been off his feet in his career before, and he basically ruined Teddy Reed after that. Teddy Reed it was a sharp drop off in his performances after Kermit stopped him, and I just feel like, if that guy shows up and fights, if that version of Kermit shows up and fights Thurman, he beats Thurman.
All right, well, listen, on that, I'm gonna close the interview, and I appreciate you taking time and explaining what's going on with Kermit Cintron and the Cintron team, and hopefully the fans will listen to this and realize that Kermit is back, and hopefully we'll see him back on TV soon. I want you to say anything you want to the Cintron fans and the supporters out there, just to let them know that Kermit is on his way back up the ladder.
Well, I think that anybody out there that's still been holding on to the hope that one day they would see the return of the guy that that they followed that was 24-0 with 22 knockouts, just running through everybody, that had a great chin, a big punch, and could box. I think that that's what you're going to see. I think that he's made the right choices, the right decisions in his life, and as far as to giving the fans what they've all been waiting and hoping to see, which is him fighting with 100% of his physical attributes intact. And I think that they're going to be surprised if and when he gets the right opportunity to fight somebody and reestablish himself as a name and a threat in the welterweight division.
All right, and with that, the truth has spoken.